Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most common questions I hear, which is, how do I get rid of my thoughts when I'm meditating? I've heard this question a lot, and some of my favorite stories around this are when I was a Buddhist monk for 9 years. When I was a monk, I wore robes similar to what His Holiness the Dalai Lama wears, like red robes. And I would just do my daily activities, do my life in my robes, go to the grocery store. If I'm traveling, I'm going through an airport. And often people would, wonder who's this, strange looking Buddhist monk, because I'm obviously not from a traditional Buddhist culture. And so, they were wondering, oh, is this guy really a monk? And so they would come up to me and say, hey, are you a Buddhist monk? And I would say, yeah. And often people would ask questions around meditation. And probably the number one thing I heard was people really aspiring or wanting to meditate, but they just had this, dilemma that they can't stop thinking. So I would often get this question, I'd love to meditate more, but I just think too much and I can't, stop my thoughts or get rid of my thoughts. And I would just gently say to them, look, you don't have to do that. This is actually a misunderstanding. So I'd like to talk about that a little bit today in this episode, that we don't have to get rid of our thoughts to have a successful meditation practice, to really make headway and progress in our meditation. So if we're not trying to get rid of our thoughts, what are we trying to do? And so the simple way to put this is we are trying to know we're thinking. So there's a difference between getting rid of thoughts and knowing that thoughts are arising. So one of the purposes of meditative awareness practice or shamatha practice is to train in knowing that we're thinking. So obviously, in order to know we're thinking, we can't sit there the whole time trying to block thoughts. So I recommend don't try to block your thoughts. It also creates a lot of tension and anxiety in the practice. And it sort of ends up in this battle where we're fighting our thinking mind. And then we end up, after our 20 or 30 minutes of practice, just thinking we're a terrible meditator. So please don't do that. I've seen a lot of people do that. And I really want to help people to avoid going through that type of suffering in their meditation practice. So if we're allowed to know that we're thinking, what does that mean? So what that means is that in meditative awareness practice, at least within the lineages I practice in Tibetan Buddhism, we are centering awareness. And when we center awareness, it's not so much about a concentration or a focus where we're pushing thoughts away or where we don't have to think at all. It's more that we are training to first recognize what awareness is, which is a quality of the mind that knows it's knowing, a quality of the mind that can bear witness or become watchful of an object or watchful of a thought or watchful of an experience. And we train in that to where that capacity of mind is stronger and we're able to access it quicker, easier, and for longer periods of time. And so we're allowed to know within that awareness because a thought doesn't block that awareness. So I'll say that again. We're allowed to know within awareness because a thought doesn't block awareness. What blocks awareness then? What blocks awareness is losing awareness. And that's what we call distraction in meditation. So actually having a thought and knowing there's a thought does not mean we're distracted in meditation. So distraction is when we actually lose awareness. Distraction is when we have a thought, we follow after that thought, and that thought turns into another and another and another, and suddenly we're ruminating in a whole story about yesterday or lunch or whatever is coming later today. In this sense, knowing there's thought is not distraction. It's when we get carried away by thinking that we classify that as distraction in meditation. So what I really recommend here is to eventually familiarize yourself with awareness. Now, if you're more of a beginner to meditation, that's pretty challenging. So you may want to focus on something like the breath and just bring your focus and concentration to the breath for short periods of time, being really lenient with the results you're getting out of practice. Another way to say that is just have low expectations for your practice in the beginning and just train in that. So you set up a period of time, 10, 20, 30 minutes, whatever you want to do, and you train in that in short periods, 1 minute, 2 minutes at a time. Now, as your ability to calmly abide with some focus and concentration grows, you're going to start to notice this quality of mind called awareness. And it's a sense of watchfulness. It's a sense of almost like another aspect of yourself that can watch the breath, watch what you're doing, that not only is focused on the breath, but knows that you're focused on the breath. So I talk about this a little bit more in previous episodes on what is meditation, also a guided practice I did on meditative awareness. So you can go check those out if you want. As well as I have a lot of free resources on my website at scotttusa.com. As always, leave a comment here. Feel free to ask me a question. Let me know what's going on in your practice, or you can reach out to me through my website. So thanks so much. Wishing you all the best in your practice.